of the 24th of July. Is it your wish I should sign these as a correct record? Yes. Are there any apologies for absence?
Apologies received from councillors Eddie Reeves and Will Aldridge, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I understand actually Councillor Reeves may be attending, but it'll be late, so that's good news. Also have an apology from Dan Osborne. Councillor Dan Osborne.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Chairman, I'm going to apologise to myself. I've never walked out of a council meeting before, but I've come and double booked something that I have to go somewhere else. So on to the second motion that's been put has gone by. I am leaving. I do apologise to council. I don't normally do it, as you're aware.
We'll forgive you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and apologies from Councillor Loud.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Like Councillor Osborne, I have to go to a parish planning meeting at 7:30, so I should be leaving at the same time as Councillor Osborne.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Sorry?
Sorry, mate.
Right, we move on to declarations of members' interests. Do we have any declarations of interest, please? For items on this evening's agenda? None? None? That's a first. Chairman's announcements. Right. You've all had the list of the engagements that I've been undertaking on behalf of the council. When I looked at it in printed form, I thought there's an awful lot of eating and drinking involved in this. However, I do want to assure you of the fact that actually the chairman's job, when we're out there eating and drinking, is actually to represent this council and to promote the council. So we're not just having a jolly, or even if it looks like it. The other thing I would like to say, it's there for you to see, there is one omission. For reasons I won't go into, but I did attend the AGM, or the annual review of Home Start this week, which isn't on the agenda, on the list. 2 points I want to make. First of all, you'll see guide dogs mentioned on, find it, yes, 26th of September. Guide Dog Week, National Guide Dog Week, it runs from the 4th of October to the 12th of October, and National Guide Dogs are very keen that we should promote the work that they're doing. They will be holding a collection in Daventry on the 17th, so those of you who are actually in the town and see them on that day, please give generously. The second item that I want to bring to your attention is the one on October the 16th, Sports Awards at the Leisure Centre. I would urge as many of you to attend as possible, because that's when we actually celebrate what younger people and older people have been doing in terms of sport in our community, and that is such an important for the individuals involved. It's also important for the district. It contributes to health, fitness, and indeed to success in sport as well. So do your best to attend, please. I'd be very pleased to see you all there. A matter of clarification, on the 15th of November there's a service of Thanksgiving, Mayor of Northampton. Actually, it is the 825th anniversary of the granting of the Royal Charter for Northampton. So that's what that actually means there. Now, one further thing. we've just had a little soiree of our own. And actually, I wonder how many members have actually thought about this. This year is our 40th birthday. 1974. The council was set up and went into business, so we had a little celebration of that. All I can say is that we're obviously facing a period of austerity. That's been going on for a rather long time now. It'll go on for a few more years. We're also facing constitutional reform. What will happen in the next 10 years, particularly to small councils like our own, we don't know. I just hope that in 10 years' time we will be able to celebrate our 50th birthday. So there we are. And just one other little note for you. I've received a couple of donations this evening to my charity, and the sum so far raised is somewhere between £700 and £800. The exact figure I can't give you precisely at this moment. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I draw attention to something I couldn't please. You're talking about the guide dogs. I'd just like to say that I think we all support the guide dogs, of course we do. It might be of interest to this group to know, the people of Daventry know, that the Daventry Consolidated Charity made a significant contribution to guide dogs for the blind, and we're very delighted to do that, particularly for the good work they have done. So that was the route we took in actually in terms of making a contribution.
Excellent.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you very much. Actually, one thing I did forget to say, sorry about this, but I said in my inaugural speech that I wanted to get out into the community. I have got out into the community a little bit, but please do keep the invitations coming. And I have been to Yelvertoft Setting of the Sun service, which was actually a service for Yelvertoft, Lilbourne and Crick in connection with World War I, and Groove on the Green in Walgrave, which was a highly enjoyable, very family-orientated event, and if it comes up next year or the year after, do go along. I can recommend it thoroughly. So, thank you, Councillor Carter, for that. Thank you. Right. Questions under Council Procedure Rules numbers 10 and 11. To answer questions from members of the public, we have had a question from the member of the public. It has come in written form, and I'm going to, in the interests of transparency, read this question, and then the leader will respond. The question is from Mr. Paul Biggins to Chris Miller, leader of Daventry District Council, and it reads as follows. Can you all hear me at the back?
Yeah.
Good. Local authorities are required by law to be objective and even-handed in their publicity. Why does Daventry Calling not feature the work of council officers in dealing with the effects of the rise of poverty and the decline in living standards brought about by this Tory-led government? For instance, the exponential rise in discretionary housing payments following the implementation of the bedroom tax. Why does it not explain why a Helping Hampers initiative and Coats for Christmas campaign are needed? I read that DDC are to help vulnerable people this winter. I would like to know more about the policies that have made them vulnerable and why, with multi-million-pound investment in our district, we are in the shameful position of having residents who rely on a food bank and a clothes bank. That is a question from Mr. Paul Biggins. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Madam Chairman, for allowing me the opportunity to actually respond to that question. And I want to thank Mr. Biggins for the question. It's always encouraging to receive feedback from members of the public about Daventry Calling, which we hope provides households with a valuable source of information about the various services and activities they can access from the Council and our partners. We're always looking at ways of developing the content of the magazine, so any feedback is always helpful, Madam Chairman. Daventry Calling always aims to provide residents with factual news and information about services and activities of the Council and its partners in an even-handed and objective manner. The recent Helping Hampers and Coats for Christmas article in September's Daventry Calling was intended to give readers an overview of the two campaigns and how they can get involved in those campaigns and support them. There can be many reasons why residents might be classed as vulnerable by professional organisations, which could include debt problems, redundancy, bereavement, domestic violence, or a combination of lifestyle issues. Rather than trying to explain or analyse the many complex issues behind the need of these campaigns, the aim of the Daventry Calling article was to focus on the action being taken by a number of partners, not just the Council, to support these residents, particularly in the run-up to Christmas, and how others can get involved in helping too. This approach has already been very successful in previous years, and these campaigns benefited from an overwhelming support and generosity of our local residents, businesses and organisations who are really taking it to their hearts. Although this particular article focuses on two winter campaigns, Madam Chairman, the work of council officers and our partner organisations to support the vulnerable people takes place all year round, as does our work to support other members of our community. We try to promote these activities in Daventry Calling as much as possible. You might recall in recent editions we publicised the work of the Northamptonshire Credit Union in helping people to save money and access loans at very low interest rates. Similarly, in this autumn edition, there's an article about our partnership with the Fredericks Foundation, which helps owners of small businesses and start-ups who struggle to access finance. We've also promoted initiatives aimed at helping households save money, such as features aiming to help people reduce their food waste and shopping bills. The Green Deal scheme, which encouraged residents to take up a free wall installation. We have promoted our benefit services and encouraged those on low incomes to seek support, including discretionary housing payments where appropriate. It is a sad fact that residents across the UK are now regularly using food banks. We recognise this as a significant issue for our district too, which is why the Council is working with the Daventry Food Bank and the Daventry District Over 50s Forum on this second Hampers campaign. Mr Biggins refers to the multi-million-pound investment being made into our district. As a council, we have an ambitious vision for improvement, which we are delivering upon, where this investment aims to result in better living standards for all our residents, through better housing, increased job prospects, improved leisure, retail, community and educational facilities. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Right, we go on to 6.2. And I think there are no questions from members of the Council. Move on to 7. Motion under Council Procedure Rule 12. And this is a motion proposed by Councillor Luke. Would you like to?
Thank you, Chair. This council notes that it has been estimated that the UK Treasury loses as much as £12 billion to tax dodging by multinational companies every year. Developing countries lose 3 times more to tax dodging than they receive in aid each year, enough to give a basic education to 57 million children currently missing out. The UK has a particular responsibility to end tax dodging, as it is responsible for 1 in 5 of the world's tax havens in the British overseas territories and Crown dependencies. The use of tax havens by UK companies is rife, with 98 of the FTSE 100 companies routinely using tax havens. Large multinational companies pay as little as 5% in corporate taxes globally, while smaller businesses pay up to 30%. This council believes that as a local authority we have a duty to provide the best possible public services. Our ability to provide quality local services would be significantly enhanced by the increased revenues from the government tackling tax dodging. All who benefit from public spending should contribute their fair share. The UK must take a lead role in creating a fairer tax system and combating tax dodging. This council resolves to support the campaign for tax justice by supporting the motion. While many ordinary people face falling household income and rising cost of living, some multinational companies are avoiding billions of pounds of tax from a tax system that fails to make them pay their fair share. Local governments in developing countries and the UK alike would benefit from a fairer tax system, where multinational companies pay their fair share, enabling authorities around the world to provide quality public services. The UK government must listen to the strength of public feeling and act to end the injustice of tax dodging by large multinational companies in developing countries and in the UK. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Seconder? For that, do you want to speak now, Councillor
I'll
Campbell?
reserve my comments till later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any? Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can I thank Councillors Luke and Campbell for putting forward this motion. On the detail, before the actual motion itself, can't agree on everything. I mean, one of the issues about UK governments, we're a district council, we can't predict what the governments will do with their monies at the time they receive them, because obviously circumstances change, such as wars and stuff like that. But clearly we support the principle of the motion. I want to put forward an amendment to the an amended motion, really, supporting what the principles we're trying to achieve, Councillor Luke and Councillor Campbell. And it goes as follows, if I may put this forward as an amendment, please, Madam Chairman. Some multinational companies, I'll read it very slowly, some multinational companies are avoiding billions of pounds of tax from a tax system that fails to make them pay their fair share. Local government in the UK is likely to benefit from a fairer tax system where multinational companies pay their fair share. The UK government must continue to listen to the strength of public opinion and act to ensure that large multinational companies operating in the UK pay their fair share of tax. The point of that motion, which is supported by the Conservative administration, because the Conservative government's already said that all multinational companies should pay their fair share of tax. The issue we have as a district council is we can't obviously predict what's going to happen nationally, and when monies are collected, taxes are put into the central government, and they have to see how, whichever the government it is, have to see how they see fit to spend that money, depending on the circumstances in the country. But we do support the principle of the motion being put forward. I hope the opposition can accept that amendment, because obviously we are supporting in principle what they're saying, and that obviously multinational companies should actually pay their fair share, and obviously we hope the government will continue to listen and ensure that happens in the long run. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for your amendment? Councillor Luke, is that amendment acceptable to you and to Councillor Campbell?
Yes, Madam Chair. I couldn't actually see a lot of difference between what was stated and what Councillor Miller has amended, but yes, we're quite happy to take that.
Councillor Campbell, do you wish to speak now?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm happy to second the proposed amendment. I think this is an important motion which sends out an important signal about how seriously we take tax justice as an authority, and it sends a signal out to support the many businesses and residents in this district who do pay taxes properly. So it's an important motion, and I'm glad that we can agree on amendment and agree it. Thank you.
I take it no one else wants to speak, in which case I have show of hands on that. Amendment. Thank you. Carried. Thank you. Right, we come now to the second item on Agenda 7. And this is a motion proposed by Wendy Randall, Councillor Randall, and Councillor Randall.
Thank you, Chairman. The Council notes, local governments face the biggest cuts of any part of the public sector. The LGA says that over this Parliament, local government core funding will fall by 40% and councils will have to make 20 billion of savings. In Daventry district, spending power per dwelling is estimated to have fallen by £186 per dwelling since 2010. In June 2013, the leader of this council wrote with the chair of the LGA and 150 other council leaders to the Chancellor, George Osborne, telling him that the cuts to local government were bad for the country, bad for the people, and bad for the prospects of economic recovery. This council believes local authorities have a duty to provide the best possible public services. This government's approach to local government is having a detrimental impact on these services. The local funding model is unsustainable, and the relationship between local and central government is not in the best interest of the people of this district. This council resolves to ask Chris Heaton-Harris MP to express publicly his support for our position, to write to the Secretary of State for communities and local government to make our position clear.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell, do you wish to speak at this stage?
I will reserve my comment for later. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wish to? Oh, Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman. Surprise, I don't support the motion, Chairman. Slight history lesson. Well, the history lesson is the proposer talked about the irresponsible government or the government that's not being fair. Well, what about the government that built up the debt that this government is trying to pay back? They claim it was bankers, but we know the bankers didn't borrow the money, the government borrowed the money. But whether you show your head or not, Councillor Luke, the government borrowed the money, the previous government. Now, if anybody here has borrowed a substantial amount of money, you know you have to pay it back. If you don't pay it back, it's totally irresponsible and you lose every credibility that you've ever had. So you have to pay it back, or you end up like Greece or a few other European countries that their money is virtually worth nothing. This country is called Great Britain, and I perceive it to, I want it to be great again, to be known in the world as a country that does pay its debts back. It's paid half of its debt back, according to the Chancellor on Monday. Half of it has been paid, so there are a few more years to go. Yes, it does hurt local government. Yes, it does hurt local people, and it hurts a lot of people. But we all benefited from the loans, so we have to pay them back. I would ask, perhaps, when the seconder speaks, that they could explain the 186 per dwelling since, do you mean per year? Do you mean per 4 years? What do you mean? I don't understand the figures there. Chairman, I think I can't say a lot more. I believe that we should pay it back. It does hurt to pay it back, and it's going to hurt for a few more years. Pay it back. We'll be a country that's great again and able to run properly. And this is the only way to do it. I don't like it, but this is the only way to do it. So I cannot support the motion, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Any other speakers?
Thank you, Chair. I do believe that the Tories government is borrowing money as well. They've got a huge debt. The Labour government did not leave at that debt. The Labour government was brought by a national economic crisis brought on by bankers who want to pay for it. And I think this government could have a better way of getting their debt down and not putting it on the burden onto poor people who are actually paying the burden of the tax for the government. They should do as you've agreed, get it from the corporate tax dodgers. But George Osborne keeps telling us that our national debt is all down to benefit cheats and bloated public services. But 120 billion is lost to tax cheats every year. 15 times more than benefit cheats cost us, more than the entire NHS budget, and 3 times the amount we spend on schools. So I think there is room for the government to treat poor people fairer. It is not fair the way it is being done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wasn't going to speak, but I feel I must respond because this appears to be an attempt to use this second motion to repeat the first motion. I just wanted to say that perhaps the Labour group should bear in mind that the fundamental mismanagement by a previous administration has left the country having to deal with this enormous fiscal deficit, or perhaps, like their national leader, they've forgotten about it.
Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's refreshing to hear the Labour group talk about the economy since they forgot so eloquently last week. I think we have to look at the news in the last couple of days. So, for instance, you've had today about Virgin taking over and about to float Northern Rock. There's calculations being done, which means the two parts of Northern Rock actually put back together again will realise the problem in the first place, where the government had to bail them out. I think we did see a lot of economic mismanagement under the watch of the previous government. We've seen our economy growing strongly because of the performance of this government. And we really need to keep focus on the goal and keep the economy growing, which will be the biggest benefit to the people of this country. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Irving Smith.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just one thing. When a motion like that is put on, it makes us look like we are going to be aspiring MP. I think it's important to say that in Daventry we try to do our best with the fund we have, and that is not the time to speak about national issues. We do as well as we can with what we are facing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hills.
Thank you, Chairman. I think you mustn't forget, and I don't like bringing politics into it too much, but I feel I must. We mustn't forget that we had 13 years of a Labour government. And what did it leave us? A note that said there's nothing in the bank. I think that says it all, quite frankly. We have got to get our finances and the deficit down. I think we are working towards that. It's not just us, it's all councils that have to suffer this. And one thing I would say, where we are lucky, we have an excellent MP in Chris Eaton-Harris. And one thing we are able to do, whatever party you're from, is go to him with our problems and difficulties, and he will always try to help. You don't always win, like we don't always win, but he will try like we are trying. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Madam. I've almost finished writing it. Madam Chairman, just a couple of political things. It wasn't the Tory party that removed the regulation on bankers. It wasn't the Tory party that actually sold all our gold reserves for, in real terms, fortunes. However, let's forget the politics. During the Labour administration, this council set out on a positive agenda. The positive agenda for Daventry brought in UTC, all planned before the Conservatives took over the educational quarter, brought in ICON, brought in one of the lowest job counts nationally. All this under a Labour and, at the end of the day, a Conservative administration. I think we should forget the politics. This district council estimated government's they acted prior and in a prudent manner. I think we've done exceptionally well for the ratepayers of Daventry, and I think that's the way forward, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miller, I understand you're speaking.
Thank you, Steve. Madam Chairman, I want to say actually that when you read the preamble to the motion itself, the resolution, this is a good council. We did right, the LGA did right to ask for more money. That's quite right we do that, because obviously the more money we get out of government, then the more services we can provide. But the truth is, of course, this country was left in an awful mess by the previous Labour government, and what we've done at this council is show a very clear way forward where we provide good services at a low cost to the taxpayer, and therefore Chris Eaton-Harris we work very closely with to extract maximum benefit to this district. And so what's the point of writing to Chris to say, you know, well actually we're moaning? We're not moaning, we get on with it. And the truth is, because we're in the national position created by the last Labour government, we get on with things and we provide very good services for our public at a very low cost. And therefore that's what we should actually say well done to. And obviously we have opportunities. I was at meetings today trying to again bring more inward investment into Daventry, because there's other ways of doing it, not just through the council tax money, so obviously not only through normal government core funding, which we know has been reduced because of the previous problems created by the previous government, We also bring in extra monies for investing, as we've done in Daventry, and we'll continue to do in Daventry, for the longer term benefit of our residents, and long may that continue. What we won't do is we're not going to moan about it, because if you moan about it you get nowhere. We just get on with it and deliver, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishes to make a contribution? In that case, I'll come to Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. I want to second the motion. For Councillor Osborne's benefit, the cut per dwelling, pound per dwelling is a cumulative cut since 2010. I hope that helps. I think it's difficult to understand the opposition to this motion, since, as Councillor Miller has just pointed out, it's built around a letter which this council signed up to and published and made public only a year ago, opposing further cuts to local government. And I'd be interested to know what's happened since then and now to make us less likely, it seems, to want to sign up to that commitment and that opposition, and the commitment which is embodied in the motion about making it more public, so that people know that we're standing up for them and the residents in this district. And although we appreciate we have to cut our cloth, we're also not one to roll over. I think there are big concerns nationally across the country from all sorts of people about how David Cameron is going to fund the tax cuts he's just proposed. I think there's a real concern that some of those cuts are going to be funded by further cuts to public services, many of which are carried out by local authorities. So I think this is an important message to people to say that we're very concerned about the impact of further cuts to this council and to other councils about it and the impact on the most vulnerable residents in our district in particular. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Right, we'll now move to the vote. Those in favour of the motion?
I've got something else. I'll come speak.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Do we not owe more money now than we did when this government came into power?
No.
As for let's not forget politics in this chamber, definitely do not forget politics in this chamber. When everybody goes to their voting station in May, generally they vote for their party. That is what they're voting for. So this chamber is very much about politics, and we do have completely different ideas. So it is all about politics. Let's see, cuts that have affected our residents. Bedroom tax, loss of council tax support grants, and we are seeing our local voluntary organisations having more and more expected of them. Whilst they live in a period of uncertainty, they are forever filling in grant forms. Only ourselves, that out of our 3 grants, 2 of those have already run out of money, and let's hope we're only in September. Colin Morgan, Councillor Morgan, growing economy. Is that not being created by zero-rated contracts and flexi contracts? I noticed that we have a lot of jobs, local jobs, lately. A lot of those are unskilled jobs. They're minimum wage. They're zero-rated. They're flexi contracts. There's no stability. People cannot get a mortgage. Rents are extortionately high. People are sofa surfing. The cuts are affecting some of the most vulnerable people within our district, and we need to be saying enough is enough. By not agreeing to our motion, are you saying that anybody who votes against is saying it's okay to accept the cuts? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have to respond to that. I think there's a fundamental difference. You saw David Cameron this week say he wants to cut taxes for people who are working, and obviously I think that's good news. The Labour Party wants to increase taxes. We know that's the position. That's the fundamental difference between our parties. One wants to increase taxes, one wants to reduce taxes. This issue about this motion is that we're saying that as a council we have to deal with reality. The government of the day have to take their decisions, their money's short, and therefore we all have to do our share. And we're doing that very well at Daventry, and I think even the administration and Labour work well, and the UKIP, and all these parties with them have worked well to try and ensure we do that. So there's a local element, there's also the national element. The national element really is that if we're going to increase taxes, people have less money to spend, and obviously David Cameron's made it very clear he wants people to have more money in their pockets to spend, which helps the economy. And I think people will make the choice next year in the ballot box. They'll vote locally for the council, whether they think the council is well run and provides good value for money. And secondly, they vote nationally for who they believe will lead this country forward in a positive way, and hopefully with more jobs, more investment, lower taxes, and therefore I think I know which way I'll be voting, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. I'm going to move to the vote now. Those in favour of the motion?
3, Chairman.
3. Those against? The motion is lost. Thank you. We now move on to item 8, reports of committees. Do you wish to take these as usual on block? Noted.
Great.
Thank you. Item 9, recommendation committees. With you, or get that page 51. There's not that. We start with SG 51, 1401, Councillor Learning and Development. Councillor
Yes,
Abington.
I would like the member to note the recommendation. I know that the progress in councillor development to be noted, and that the member learning and development plan for 2014-2050 be endorsed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I appreciate it. Do we have a seconder? Right. Yes? You're seconded?
Yeah,
Yeah, thank
I
you.
was waiting for an acknowledgement.
Yeah. I was taken by surprise.
Oh.
Somebody else is later. Can we move on? Oh, no, I haven't voted on that yet, have we? Sorry. Are you happy? Anybody want to speak on that? No? Are you happy to accept that recommendation? SG 52-1401, planning appeal, legal costs, Councillor Guildford.
You have before you a recommendation that seeks funding for a robust defence of the West Haven planning appeal in connection with the refusal of the major housing permit. It's essential that these appeals are properly defended. Failure to provide an adequate defence of the reasons for refusal could lead to an award of costs against the council. This could be a considerable amount. The Deputy Chief Executive has approved the use of contingency funding to meet these costs. However, if there is not sufficient contingency funding or other budget underspends available, it is recommended that these costs are met from the earmarked legal reserves. So by providing a robust defence, the PC is taking a prudent approach, and it is hoped that the likelihood of an award of costs against the council will be reduced.
Thank you, Councillor Guildford. Is there a seconder? Councillor Daventry. Yes. Anybody wish to speak? No? Right. Are you happy to accept the recommendation? SG 52-1403, Treasury Management Annual Report 2013 and 14. Councillor Guildford again.
Thank you, Chair. The previously circulated report advises members of the outcomes of the Council's Treasury management activities. The EDC has a statutory requirement to produce an annual Treasury management review of activities and the actual prudential and Treasury indicators for 13-14. This report meets that requirement. The report itself that's been circulated details that review and concludes that 13-14 continued to be a positive year for improved investment returns, and that the Council's prudent approach again and risk-averse policy continues to drive our investment strategy with low returns on future diminishing balances being achieved. I therefore ask you to note the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Guildford. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hills. No, this is a recommendation simply that it is noted, so are you happy to do that? You're on your feet all the time. Councillor Guildford.
Thank you, Chair. Last one then. The circulated report gives a financial overview of the 15-16 capital and revenue budget and medium-term financial plan. Since the plan approved in February, assumptions were made, decisions were made, and it was updated to reflect those decisions. These assumptions are detailed in the report that was circulated, along with the issues and the proposals that it encompasses. Table 5.1 of the report shows the updated position. The impact of the above year-on-year budget surplus and deficits results in total revenue reserves dropping from 14 million to 9.7 million in the end in 17-18. As in previous years, the Council has responded well to the challenges that severe cuts in funding brought. Our prudent financial management continues to pay dividends and allows the Council to respond in a considered manner to changes in funding levels. There is, though, an increased risk to the authority that we are directly affected by protection levels of non-domestic rates, and we are also exposed to changes in levels of those paid in the Council to support, given that funding for the scheme is both reducing and not increased based on demand. There's no doubt there's still challenges ahead, not least of which will be the delivery of the town centre vision and the assumed revenue impact of saving initiatives that are yet to be delivered. I therefore ask you to approve the recommendations within the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Guildford. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Over. Thank you very much. Does anybody wish to say anything upon this particular set of recommendations, or are you happy to agree? Thank you. Move on to SG 53-1401, Focus Allocations Review, Consultation Responses. Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Basically, this report relates to a policy change. The purpose of the report was to consider responses made to the Focused Allocations Review and Allocation Scheme. The scheme was adopted in July 2013 with a request for a 12-monthly review to be undertaken. Since that request was made, a number of issues arose which required a focused review of the scheme. A couple of items were highlighted. One, the introduction of additional strategy guidance on providing social housing for local authorities in England. And two, the prospect of development starting in the near future within the Daventry district, part of the NRDA, which would require an adjustment to the allocation scheme to allow people with a Northampton connection. Therefore, I ask that you recommend, one, that the responses to the consultation focused allocation review on the housing allocation scheme, as set out in Appendix A, be noted. And two, that the changes to the housing allocation scheme set out in sections 4.2 and 4.3 of the report be made. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Warren. We have a seconder. Councillor Asbury. Anybody wish to say anything on this? Councillor Campbell.
I just wanted to say we had a good debate about this at the strategy group, but I think it was Councillor Chartler who brought up the fact that many respondents to the consultation seem to be responding to a different subject or about issues which weren't felt to be pertinent to this consultation. So I think it's important that we record both our ambition to make consultations maybe more purposeful and better phrased so that we do get responses that we want, and also those concerns that were recorded are dealt with separately and thoroughly in another way. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Can I have show of hands then for this recommendation? Recommendations, thank you.
Agreed.
No. Thank you. SG 54-1401, Northampton Growth Management Scheme. Councillor Chartler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Northampton Growth Management Scheme applies particularly to the effects of the planned growth of Northampton itself, the NRDA that we've been hearing of a few moments ago. And the Memorandum of Understanding has been kept under constant review and has had recently to be amended to reflect current legislation. The amendments made were in relation to the deletion from the list of partners of the West Northampton Development Corporation, which no longer exists, There has been clarification that there will be no improvements to the M1 motorway except for those at junction 15, and reference has been made to the Highways Agency providing sustainable economic growth. It has been noted that the Highways Agency is likely to be replaced by a government-owned company, and therefore the reference relating to them would need to be replaced, as the power to issue the holding direction would return to the Department of Transport. This holding direction could be used if there was no promise of funding in a planning obligation, and members' attention is drawn to Annex 3 of the Growth Management Scheme, which details the delivery process. So we're asking, the first recommendation is that the revised Northampton Growth Management Scheme Memorandum of Understanding is endorsed by the Council as providing an appropriate approach to managing the impacts of development on the A45 Trunk Road and Junction 15 of the M1. The second recommendation, that the Council calls on the Government to include the Growth Management Scheme within the National Roads Programme. It was discussed at Strategy Group that perhaps this had been done already, in that a letter had already been sent to Government. This was actually sent on behalf of the West Northamptonshire Joint Transport Steering Group to the Highways Agency, requesting that it be funded through the National Road Programme. We understand that may have been favourably received, but we can't confirm that, of course, until the route strategy is announced later in the year. But the second recommendation here, or second proposal, is that the Council should in any case write to them as the Council, just to make sure that they don't forget that they have this on their agenda, as it were.
Thank you, Councillor Chancellor. We have a seconder, Councillor Paul.
May I ask a question, Madam Chairman? Thank you. Through yourself, of course. Councillor Chandler mentioned that the Highways Agency would possibly be abolished, taken over by a private company. I wonder if he knows the pot of money that the Highways Agency are actually sitting on. Where would that go? Thank you, Madam.
The brief answer, Madam Chairman, is no idea.
Short and sweet.
Very spent it by the time we change it.
Thank you, Chairman. By way of clarification, it's a government-owned company that will replace the Highways Agency. I think you'll find that the funds the Highways Agency holds currently will be transferred to the company, and the company will receive the National Roads Programme budget to spend in the future.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to make a contribution? No? In that case, agreement? Anyone against? No. Right, thank you. Now we go on to SG 541402, neighbourhood area applications for Guilsborough, Woodford, Members, Halson, Overson, and again Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm sure that members are now becoming familiar with the process regarding neighbourhood areas being the precursor to possible development of a neighbourhood development plan for each of these areas. Each of these areas has been out for public consultation, and as a result of that we are recommending the 4 resolutions that you can see over the page. It's perhaps worth just explaining a little that Guilsborough Parish Council, the suggested neighbourhood area is the parish, the whole parish, and there is no reason to go against that. And so we would recommend that that be approved and be known as the Guilsborough neighbourhood area. And for the avoidance of doubt, this neighbourhood area would not be designated as a business area. In the case of Woodford cum Rembris, we note that there is an industrial estate within the parish, but this is considered to be not large enough to be designated as a separate business area, and so the neighbourhood area for Woodford cum Rembris is to be known as the parish, will be known as Woodford cum Rembris neighbourhood area, And again, for the avoidance of doubt, this neighbourhood area would not be designated as a business area. Halston Parish, again, the entire parish might be considered, but there is part of it which is allocated within the core strategy as a sustainable urban extension, and by definition that cannot be included within the neighbourhood plan area. And so the recommendation there is that the application by Halston Parish Council for the designation of a neighbourhood area be approved, be known as Halston Neighbourhood Area, and for the avoidance of doubt, this neighbourhood area would not be designated a business area. Similarly, the final one, Overston Parish, again, they can't allocate the entire parish to a neighbourhood area. Part of it is allocated within the core strategy for the Northampton North Sustainable Urban Extension, and the existence of that part effectively isolates a small part of the parish to the north, and it's decided to keep that out of the neighbourhood development area. It's noted that Overston Parish Council wish to preserve the linear form of the current village of Overston, and so we're recommending that the application for the designation of a neighbourhood area as indicated on their map should be approved, and it be known as the Overston neighbourhood area. And again, finally, for the avoidance of doubt, this neighbourhood area would not be designated as a business area. Those are the four recommendations, ma'am.
Thank you, Councillor Chandler. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Warren. There's a thoroughly non-contentious item. I take it nobody will want to speak on it? People? Here. Move on now to the next item, which is the Corporate Governance Committee Chairman's annual report. Thank you, Councillor Shepherd.
Chairman, thank you. 15 minutes. This is a remarkable record. You'll go down in history, Chairman, for that. Let me detain you for another few minutes, if I may. Those members new to corporate governance, there were one or two on the committee this year, will have been astonished at the level of governance that applies to local authorities. First of all, we have a middle-ranking officer, the Internal Auditor, Scott Beasley, middle-ranking, who has access to everything, and he audits the work that is essentially the responsibility of the Chief Executive, and produces a number of audit reports in the course of the year, which the Vice Chairman and I see on a regular basis. He reports to the committee as to the efficiency of his audit process. He also is scrutinised by the committee. Over the whole of top of that, we've got KPMG, who's called a district auditor, who has a look at everything. And it's a remarkable, multifaceted arrangement for auditing, which is unique to local government. Thank goodness it doesn't apply corporately or companies will be spending massive amounts on audit. We, however, are so good in so arranging our affairs that our audit fees have gone down by 40% in the last year. And that's one of the two things I want to highlight from this note. The other is, of course, emboldened as well, and I'm told it's slightly confusing, but we have in the audit process, the internal auditor rates the service that he is looking at as in compliance terms, fully compliant, substantial, limited or minimal. And his target that we set him, the committee set him last year, was to achieve a 80-20, 80%, 20% relationship, so that the full stroke substantial, the audits, the full audit in that category should be 80%, and the limited minimal should be 20%. Well, this year we've got 92% on full substantial and 8% on limited minimal, which is really quite remarkable. So, Chairman, that the report is before you, and I invite the Council to receive it. Point over there. Thank you.
We have a seconder that the sorry.
The Council wants to say something, I think.
Well, I'm happy to second the report, Madam Chairman. My previous life as a councillor served on Councillor Shepherd's committee, and happy, enlightening, and at sometimes frightening. One of the things that probably the auditors got fed up with me saying was, why can't you ever reduce the fee? Councillor Shepherd heaped praise on the audit team. Scott Cleveland was one of the names he put forward, but it's a credit to the whole officers of this council. Councillor Shepherd mentioned 40%. 40% of what? But the 40% actually means a reduction in the fee of £61,645. A remarkable achievement by the officers and by the corporate governance team. Happy to support it. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. Whilst I'm on my feet, can I just mention a risk management matter, which is highly technical, and it arises out of two things that have been happening this week. Firstly, I noticed a note going around advising us all that we are engaging in a policy enabling people, members of the public, to come and record and film these meetings. And that, of course, reminds me that we already have a process whereby the meetings, including committee meetings, are recorded. And this is a very topical point. In my day job, I engage in some property litigation and also in judicial review work. And also in judicial review work, judicially reviewing planning applications that are made by mischievous councils who don't get it right. And it so happens, when one advises one's clients, you don't go to judicial review to take a counsel for a planning decision, because all they've got to do is rethink it. At the next planning committee, whatever criticism you make of them, they'll get it right next time. So all you're certain of doing is delay. Well, that's fine. But my particular client was aggrieved at the building of a Asda supermarket outside of town called Cinderford in Gloucestershire. So we took the district council to judicial review, and we won, because the district council had misled, officers had, I'm afraid, misled committee members. They had a policy for enhancing a town centre, and the erection of a supermarket on the outside was clearly contrary to that policy. You know, they got a lot of things wrong. So the matter went then back to the committee to have another go at it. And you think that the committee at this stage, because they got in front of them a High Court judgment analysing precisely how they got the decision wrong on the first occasion, so they were expected to have a look at it slightly better on the second occasion. So, in the meeting that was recorded, the member who proposed that on the second occasion they still grant said this, and I can't possibly try a Gloucestershire accent. The legal system in this country is totally and utterly wrong when companies can actually go to London, engage with barristers in the High Court, highly paid judges who are buffoons. Buffoons in some cases who make judgments over areas they know very little about. And totally, in my opinion, wrong. Indeed, instead of they're holding on town to ransom. So, that was decision number 2, planning committee making. Okay, so we take that to a judicial review. The second decision. Of course, taking the second decision to the judicial review, we have the recording of the committee and the transcript that this member of the committee said. Of course, in the second decision, we then have the judgment of the second decision. We also won. Taken together with a lack of respect for the law on the part of at least some members, I'm concerned that this council is failing to apply planning law and policy correctly when making its decisions. The councillor who moved the application described High Court judges as buffoons, sitting in London making judgments over areas which they know nothing about, and this attitude may explain why the council appeared not to have sufficient regard to Mr. Justice Stewart's judgment when considering this application for the second time. Isn't that marvellous? So, all I say, this is a clear risk management point, which is quite simple. Let's continue to have solid, good, groundful, meaningful, evidence-based proper debate in all our committees. But just bear in mind that it is recorded and it will be taken down and maybe used against you. Thank you. That's it. 1 hour, exactly.
I've had one person, two people, who now indicated they wish to speak. So first of all, can I take Councillor Campbell? I thought you raised your hand. Well, in that case, we'll ask.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Just one question I'd like to ask, and I did think actually Councillor Paul was going to ask it. The reduction in the fee of 61,645, I imagine initially that we had budgeted for that amount. What are we going to do with that spent? Thank you.
Well, to such extent as we may have budgeted for a higher figure than we were required to pay, that simply goes into unspent and into surplus. The figure actually is about 40,000 because I think our budget figure was about 100. It's gone down to 60. So that's just a figure that we won't have to pay.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, the budget would have been set no longer as fee. So whilst it's a reduction in the fee, the budget would have been set on that known reduction. So the budget would have shown that it was as expected.
Thank you. Any other comments on? Should we move then to accept this report? Do we have any urgent business? Councillors? Everyone else present?